a little bit to the supply and demand thing, but I want to talk about something that this is a little bit off the subject, but I'm from I'm from Western Pennsylvania, and we have a lot of older communities. And what I see as I drive around through a lot of these older communities is there's a lot of empty homes and empty lots within these smaller communities that really are great communities, but people have kind of moved out. And as I said, this question is quite a bit off of what we're talking about, but if we're looking somehow at incentivizing people to buy new homes or build new homes, is there anything that we can do to actually try to infill, rather than going further and further and further out, but trying to actually rebuild our cities while we're doing this, or rebuild our small communities? So take a crack at that.
We talk about incentives. There's no two ways about it. The tax and credit was an incentive, and it works, and it is working very well. But it just stops it here. If we continue the incentive, maybe to allow people who are purchasing homes for $600,000 or whatever the case may be, that will bring more people in the market. It's been very slow, higher priced as well. So I know there was a question that somebody said, concerning that. We have to take a look at incentives to help all people in all price ranges.
Anybody else have an opinion on what I was?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea, and there are programs out there on a local level. I think Bowling Green, Kentucky has a great program.
What's their program?
It is community-based, but they've been able, where there's blighted homes or empty lots, the city's gone in, bought them, and turned them over maybe to Habitat for Humanity or some other thing, or for market houses. So infill is certainly important, and I think we ought to look at that. So.
I mean, I've seen some of that in the local level in my area too, but I'm just wondering if there's anything that you think we could do here on federal level as we're doing kind of these incentives and trying to get more people to look at purchasing their first home. And a lot of those homes might be those infill homes, in those older neighborhoods or in those communities.
Congresswoman, this is still a credit availability issue fundamentally, because if you're going to infill and remodel, there has to be credit availability in order to carry forward that purpose. And that's, again, is where we come back to on the expansion of the home buyer credit and the raising of the credit limits to allow for those things to happen on a conventional basis.
Mr. Jacob, did you want to say something about this?
Yeah, we're big believers in that you've got to reinvest in the infrastructure of what you have, both whether it's transportation infrastructure or your building infrastructure, and that's a perfect example of how to do it. We've proposed in the past looking at how do you give incentives through tax credits to people that would take an infill project like that on a transportation system, and if they give up traveling by an automobile, how can we incentivize them for using public transportation and invest in that public transportation so we can more effectively move people around the country and into communities like yours and not have to rely on the automobile. That, I think, is the key to the success of getting greater density and a better urban population, and those projects will happen because of that.
I have just one other question. Mr. Jacob, I know that some small businesses have expressed concern about the paperwork and reporting requirements associated with the Recovery Act contracts. And I apologize I was not here for all your testimony. I have another markup hearing that I'm kind of running in between. But what has been your experience in dealing with the administrative burdens associated with those contracts? And do you see any?
We spoke about that earlier, but very quickly, it's more. It's not so much it's a difficult process. Well, it's just that there's a lot more paperwork that we have to do in the accounting.
Is there a way to reduce those burdens?
Go back to the way we normally did projects previously. The accounting of a project from my end on a contract, our normal process is sufficient and has been in the past with federal projects that we've done several years ago. To put this on now, it just increases time. It increases our profitability.
How much time would you say?
I would say it's probably 10 to 15% more time of my project manager on the project. Not my production people, but my project manager.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you very much. I yield back.
Mr. Westmoreland.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank you for having this hearing. coming from, I'm a builder by trade, so I feel your pain, all of you. Been in the framing business also. Let me say this, and Madam Chair, you asked about a question.